You know, I didn't think I'd get enough points to make another one of these videos after doing the first one, but here we are. Hello varlets. In this video, we're gonna go through another 12 this time, annoying habits and mistakes that might drive you up the wall or literally ruin a game. With the addition of the new combo modifiers like the new version of Hunting Grounds and Shock Trooper Gauntlet, certain habits become more pronounced. Hopefully, like the last video, there will be some light bulbs going off as people realize the mistakes they've been making are brought to light here. And like the last video, feel free to use the comment section as a place to vent and share more experiences with these habits and mistakes listed, and even others not mentioned in this list or the previous one. So, let's get into it. Starting with number 1. Not helping with books. This point mainly goes for scripts, but let's talk about grimoire etiquette first. If you are doing quick play, it's probably best to ask if it's okay to take grims and how many you might need. In a mission with grims, be it malice or damnation, I always type into my chat, "Grims please, need X amount." And more often than not, someone will have an eye out for them and ping them out for me. Of course, grims come with a health penalty for the team, so if the team risks losing the mission because they aren't equipped or confident enough to take on the added penalty, it's always best to ask first, so that the players who are confident in their skill can take on the grims instead. Now, for scripts. Scripts literally have no penalty for picking them up, and yet there are some players who refuse to turn back and pick them up for the team, even when they have a free slot open. I have been in games where I had to give up a script for no reason other than because one guy who had a free slot was just so damn bloodthirsty to mow things down with his auto pistol, and he just couldn't be bothered to help out the team. That one extra script might mean the difference between completing a contract and having to spend another 20 minutes in another game just to get your milk money. Please remember to help the team out with books. The time-starved players will really appreciate your help. Number 2. Pissing off the demon hosts and then leaving. There's a special place in Satan's waste bin for this kind of people. It's only recently that I've managed to experience this in my games. The vet on our team, accidentally or not, damaged the demon host with his bolter's splash damage and decided that this game was lost and left, leaving the demon host to retarget me instead. Fortunately, I was able to stay alive long enough for a new player to take the vet's place and revive me and my friend after both of us got killed by it. In the end, we won the mission anyway. If you piss off a demon host, the game is not yet over. There's always a chance that your team can take it out if they are skilled enough or equipped for it. On top of that, a demon host can only kill 2 players before it leaves, meaning in a full team, at worst, you are 2 players down, but not out of the game yet. Leaving the mission drops the odds of success since the last player will only have a bot as their support. Honestly, I'd respect a player more if they just owned up to the mistake and stayed rather than leave. Own the mistake and apologize. For players who now have to deal with the demon hosts, if you are the target of it, I take it as an opportunity to practice evasion tactics like I did. I'll have a specific video out to deal with demon hosts in the future. Number 3. Running away with the monster. Monsters are designed to be a distraction. They are big, eye-catching bags of health that will single out a player and force them to engage it or avoid it. While everyone else's eyes are on the monster, elites, specials, and the ads around will try to capitalize on you being distracted. Because of this, players who aren't being targeted often need to prioritize these ads before the monster. And so the last thing that you, the person being targeted by the monster, should do is to run away far from your team. Running away too far separates you from the team and makes you more vulnerable to disable specials and sudden horde spawns. Not to mention, you lose your coherency regen as well. Importantly, it makes it much harder for the team to deal damage to the monster too. Your Bolter Vet and Thunderhammer Preacher can't lay the smackdown if you keep dragging the monster further and further away with you. Keep the monster away from the team, but stay close enough so that they can rescue you and support you with damage while you're distracted. Number 4. Not creating space for revives. This point calls back to the last video I made about not using your utility. These are your grenades mainly, but can also take the form of your abilities that provide space like Bull Rush or Psykinetics Wrath. Utility is meant to be used, especially when the situation goes south and you need to get your teammates back on their feet. I've seen players try to go for the revive on a fallen teammate without bothering to toss a grenade to give themselves the breathing room to pull the revive off, even when they are literally surrounded by ads. Games have been thrown simply because these players severely overestimated how much stamina they have and underestimated the attacks they'd have to block to get the revive. What ends up happening is their guard breaks and they also end up going down. This is especially important for veterans because more often than not, they would sprint to get the revive. But because the class itself has the worst stamina regen of every other class, as of this recording at least, their block isn't as strong as they like to think by the time they can get the revive. Plus, they have a feat that lets them regen grenades, and so they should be fairly generous with their nade usage. And the second point of using your utility to create space is to give your newly revived teammate a little bit of breathing room to get their block up so they can defend themselves. So make it a habit to toss out nades to cover yourself and your teammates when you're going for the revive during combat. At worst, you lose a nade. At best, you can pull a game back from the brink. Also, here's a small technique you can pull with the Ogrin's Rumbler. If you are ever in doubt about whether you can dodge a dog or have to create some space to get a revive, pull out your Rumbler and fire the shot straight down at your feet. The grenade will bounce up and fall back into position before exploding, acting as a grenade blast to create space as you revive your teammate, or to even knock away pouncing dogs. Number 5. Not rallying with your team during hunting grounds or shock gauntlets. The latest introduction to these new hilariously fun modifiers have brought about a nice change to the pace of the game. I've even read around that there are some players that just can't play anything else but high-intensity Shock Trooper Gauntlet on Damnation anymore. That being said, it has also accentuated some existing habits players do have while playing under these conditions, specifically not sticking together. In a normal game, sticking together is crucial. Staying together means you can cover each other and you're making use of your coherency regen and feats. Under these new conditions, however, it's even more crucial that you are together to ensure survival wave after wave. Splitting forces not only makes life harder for your special killers, since the specials will be splitting up and dogpiling on the lone player, but it also makes rescuing disabled players more difficult as well. Not to mention, as these modifiers have a crazy amount of special spawning, if you have a vet around, the wave of 40 over dogs and trains of specials basically act as ammo refills, since the vet's passive will kick in and give teammates within coherency some ammo for killing specials. So, if you hear the sound cue for a dog wave or wave of specials are spawning, take the initiative to find a location you can hold and rally together. Number 6. Not freeing trapped teammates as soon as you can when it's safe to do so. Teammates hit by trapper nets are disabled and aren't able to get up without the help of another teammate. However, unlike being downed, freeing a trapped teammate takes about 1 second to do so. Being fast to release isn't the only reason why you'd want to free them as soon as you can. Teammates stuck in a trapper's net gradually take corruption damage, which eats away at their wounds. So sometimes freeing them early can mean the difference between having a wound available to go down with or outright dying on the next down. If in doubt about whether you can make it to a teammate to free them before the trapper reloads or the horde crashes into you, make sure to use your utility as mentioned in point number 4 to get the release off or kill the trapper before doing so. Just make sure not to get trapped yourself. Number 7. Not going into melee against the assassination target. I'm sure this should be common knowledge by now, at least among the more older existing player base. But somehow, I still see players unloading their ranged weapons into the assassination target's void shield. If you didn't know before, the captain, that's the assassination target, has a void shield which takes significantly reduced damage from range attacks. This is something to the tune of 50% damage reduction. Meanwhile, the void shield takes 300% more melee damage, which makes it much more efficient to wail on him in melee. When you engage him in melee, not only do you take the shield down much faster, but forcing him into melee is crucial to ensuring your team can effectively manage his attacks. Most importantly, keeping him in melee forces his attention on one person so that the others can clear shooters, elites and specials as well as do damage freely. That being said, after his void shield is down, he takes full damage from range attacks, so feel free to dump your bolter rounds into him then. Number 8. Giving up tactical or strategic positioning. Believe it or not, but positioning can be a real difference maker in your games. Getting yourself into tactically advantageous positions can often turn an overwhelming wave of elites, specials and the horde into a walk in the park. These sorts of positions include holding down long hallways, choke points, corners and, of course, the high ground. These positions do at least one of several things. Either they force range enemies to push into you, funnel the horde and elites into kill boxes, or force enemies into their clambering animation. That means forcing them to climb up towards you where they will be vulnerable to attack for a brief moment. So, when I see players happily rush out of these positions when a wall of crushers and bulwarks are advancing towards us, along with a shock trooper gauntlet level of special spawning at the same time, I already know this mission is going to be a strategic nightmare to try and fight, and adjust my expectations accordingly. Usually down to no expectations of surviving. The higher up in difficulty you go, the more important it is to take advantage of tactical positions to press and advance, or to hold back a horde and intercept priority targets like bombers and snipers. Think before you move. Ask yourself if the situation unfolding in front of you needs you to hold your ground, or is advancing going to put you in a much better position than now. Number 9. Pulling far away enemies before the team is ready. Enemies that are idle or casually patrolling an area aren't threats yet. Because they aren't alerted to your presence, you can use this to your advantage to move to more tactical positions like we just talked about, that will give you an edge when you do make the jump on them. So, when the players decide that the armored patrol some 50 meters away in Damnation would be fun to fight while the team is already in the middle of dealing with a firing squad of shooters and gunners along with the horde spawn, they aren't exactly making life easier for anyone. Worse still are those who decide that fighting a mixed horde wasn't enough, but not only do they rush ahead to trigger a monster spawn, they also pull more adds towards the team as they realize their mistake. There is a fine line between luring far away enemies into kill boxes with your superior positioning and becoming a liability to your team by dragging more enemies into the mix. You might as well be a modifier that makes the difficulty harder for a team, and I'm sure there are some players masochistic enough to accept the challenge, but for most everyone else, and myself included, please keep enemies where they are when the team is not yet ready to engage. Number 10. Double dipping the ammo box. In my last video, I called out being an ammo goblin as an annoying thing to do. That is, being a player that literally picks up all the ammo throughout a map, even when they don't need it. This point doesn't stray too far from that, but it's nonetheless a possible annoyance and detriment to the team. Unlike the Medipack, which has a fixed amount of health it will heal before finally disappearing, deployed ammo boxes come with 4 charges that refill 100% of your ammo on use. That means, if you have 99% of your ammo left, using an ammo box charge will fill up that missing 1% and use up one whole charge. This also means ammo boxes are much more valuable than your regular ammo pickups because they can fully restore your ammo reserves no matter how low you are, and therefore can bring you back to full combat output in an instant. Double dipping removes charges that would have been meant for other members on the team, and so deprives them of fully getting their combat output back. This can range from being a simple annoyance to outright handicapping your team in some situations. Imagine if the auto pistol ammo goblin decided to vacuum up all the ammo box charges, and now your bolter vets or preachers don't have the ammo to deal with crushers and bulwarks. Take another charge only if absolutely no one else needs it. If you are in an event room, don't use up the remaining charges just to refill one magazine's worth of ammo. The ammo box will persist as long as it has charges, so your team can still dip into it if there are charges left to spend during or at the end of the event. Number 11. Not looking out for your teammates. DARKTIDE is a co-op game that plays best when everyone is working in unison, doing their duty and living up to the potential they hold in their class's build and role. To do this, some players will naturally be in different positions during combat. Your vet and psychers are likely to be in the back, looking for heads to pop and priority targets to destroy before they can advance. Preachers most likely want to be in the front line, tying up ranged enemies into melee where they have the advantage, and keeping melee threats occupied. Depending on how an Ogrin is built, they can be anywhere in between, offering supporting fire with their stubbers, kickback shots and rumbler nades, or right up at the front, mowing down hordes with their cleavers and punishing more resilient enemies with heavy CC. While each class has a role to fulfill, everyone has a duty to each other. Keep each other covered where you can, and leave no one behind if possible. As a support psyker myself, I try to keep my team as safe as I can, even using my Psykinetics Wrath just to stagger an enemy that would have otherwise meleeed my unsuspecting teammate. While I'm sure it's nice to have teammates that are on overwatch for everyone else, be sure to keep an eye out for them, because while they are busy doing their job and trying to support the team, who's going to have their back? So, every time you're advancing into a new area, just take a moment to turn around and look out for your backline. Stragglers can often tie them up in combat and inadvertently split them away from the team. I personally tend to play without expecting to be covered by my team in quick play, so the one time an Ogrin with a stubber turned around to give me supporting fire so I could keep up made me incredibly happy and filled with a sense of camaraderie. Even as I write this, I can still remember the scene unfold. Number 12. Blowing up a Poxburster when someone is about to push it. I think in my last video, this was one of the most common comments when it came to venting frustrations. This point, however, won't be so much about bitching about the people who do this. I know and have seen other players in games literally going out of their way to blow up a Poxburster when someone was prepared to shove it away on purpose. But instead of trashing them, I think I want to take this opportunity to share some mechanics about Poxbursters. I think it's more constructive this way. So, first off, Poxbursters have very strong stagger resistance when they are running at you. I personally know of only 3 weapons that can stagger them: the Surge Staff, the Void Strike Staff, and the Purgator Staff. If you know of any other weapons that can stagger them while they are running at you, not lunging, do let me know down in the comments below. I'm sure this information will be very helpful for everyone else. Poxbursters also instantly die when they are damaged by explosions. Rumbler and Grenade Gauntlet explosive damage, a Vet's Frag Grenade explosion, and of course, any amount of blast damage from the Trauma Staff will do the trick. I assume this also works with the Ogrin's Bombs Away feat as well, but I haven't had the opportunity to try it out myself. The recent change in patch number 8 has supposedly made Poxbursters easier to stagger when going into melee to shove them away as well. Speaking of which, you need to not be at 0 stamina and have enough stamina to do a full strength push for this to work. I've read around that a full strength push is 2 bars of stamina, but I haven't personally tested all weapons to confirm whether different weapons have different stamina costs for shoving. In any case, keep this in mind as you sprint up to a Poxburster to push it. You need to make sure you have enough stamina to shove it away, or else you might be in for an unexpected trip off the map. With that, we've reached the end of the video. Those were 12 more annoying habits or common mistakes that I see players make in my games. If you happen to be doing these things, I hope this video serves as a little guide or lesson about why you shouldn't be doing something and what you should be doing instead. As mentioned at the start of the video, let's use the comment section down below as a place to release your frustrations or vent. But do it in a way that a passing player might learn something from. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Varlets.